Okay. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're back live now, and we're on to item 9 on the agenda: joint local plan regulation, preferred options for consultation. Before I start, I'm going to introduce that we've got Anne-Marie Simpson, who is the cabinet member for South, and Andy Fulsham for Vale. And can I ask who the officers are that are present first?
Oh, yes, my name's Lucy Murfitt. I'm the policy manager.
Andrew Lane. I'm the joint local plan policy team leader in charge of the joint local plan.
And Tim?
Tim O'Rea, head of policy and programmes.
We also have Tom Rice online.
And we've also got Tom Rice online. Hello, Tom. Thank you. So we've got 5 officers. All right, okay. Well, thank you very much. As I said in my chair's remarks earlier, we are discussing the method of consultation, and this is what all this 700 pages are all about, council drawings.
But that's not what it says on the agenda, is it?
Well, it's about the preferred options for consultation. So, yes, okay. So, who is going to kick off? Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Anne-Marie Simpson. Anne-Marie,
Thank you.
please. Thank you.
This item for joint scrutiny is about the forthcoming public consultation on the joint local plan, which is planned for the new year. The joint local plan is the planning policy document, which, when eventually adopted, programmed for December 2025, will replace the existing local plans for South Oxfordshire and Vale of Whitehorse districts. We are still at a relatively early stage in the joint local plan, known as the Regulation 18 stage, where we go out to consult the public about what should be in the local plan. In this consultation, we show all thinking about the plan and set out various options for policies. For each policy topic, we show which is our preferred option so far and suggest what draft policies might look like with the preferred option. A lot of work has gone into developing and testing the policy options, which members have had the chance to hear about and shape through the 11 all-council roundtables, as well as 26 monthly cross-party steering group meetings that officers have held over the last 2 years. Underneath the local plan sit a large number of technical studies which the councils have jointly invested in to understand current conditions in the districts. These include studies on affordable housing, employment, town centres, net zero carbon, landscape and dark skies. And their insights have helped identify issues and opportunities to address them through planning policy. Some of the studies are still underway, and officers will refine approaches and slot in figures and standards ready for the next consultation stage, known as Regulation 19, or draft plan stage in autumn 2024. There is plenty of opportunity for refinement once we have heard the views of the public, developers, parish councils and organisations that are invested in or care about the districts. And at this point, I'll hand over to Andy.
Thank you. Our corporate plans have ambitions around providing homes that people need, protecting and restoring the natural world, and action on the climate emergency, and working in an open and inclusive way, to name just some of the key ones. The joint local plan can help deliver these. This plan is about innovation, not just rolling the policies forward. To reflect the corporate plan ambitions, the joint local plan does things differently from the adopted local plans. What you'll see are the proposals that really push the envelope on things like net zero carbon development, biodiversity net gain, dark skies, and water efficiency policies, where we have the opportunity to be at the cutting edge. Because of the large quantity of development that's already been planned in the adopted local plans, there is no need for new strategic greenfield housing sites or new employment sites beyond those already planned. Third options consultation proposes just 2 new allocations, both brownfield sites, which will need a new use over the plan period. And it's not only the policies that are in it, but it's also how they're presented and conveyed. We were shortlisted for a national award for the first consultation on the joint local plan last summer. And this time the team have gone further again working closely with the community engagement team to design consultation to be as engaging and accessible as possible, aiming to reach new audiences. The main joint local plan document is presented as an interactive website with maps and infographics. Has the policy options in all their detail for anyone who likes to get to grips with the detail. And we've innovated by offering the ALP in a nutshell, which contains the headlines of the plan to allow residents to give us their views without the need to get into the detail. There's also an interactive policies map to make it easy to see which policies apply just where. In summary, we're ready to go out to consultation on the joint local plan with preferred options, to hear the comments and shape the plan ready for the draft plan stage in autumn 2024. The recommendation before you is that the Joint Scrutiny Committee is being asked to review this report and share any comments or suggestions with the Head of Policy and Programmes, South Cabinet Member for Planning, and the Vale Cabinet Member for Corporate Services, Policy and Programmes, in consideration prior to the commencement of the consultation period. I hope that's a useful quick summary. We're happy to take any questions and comments.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie, and thank you, Andy, for this. Can I ask one question straight away? And it was actually Councillor Rawlins that picked this up. We know about the circumstances for why this meeting was postponed. How are you going to fit our comments in going forward, bearing in mind that Cabinet has already looked at this? So that it's a straightforward question on process.
We, in the Cabinet decision, certainly at Vale, we committed to taking on board any comments from this committee and incorporating them into the consultation documents that go. So they will be incorporated. There's actually a meeting already in the diary for next week to make any amendments.
Thank you.
Certainly considering the amendments. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, fine. So any comments from this committee? Well, it's for the Cabinet to decide whether they're relevant or deemed to be of value, but they will be taken into account. Definitely. Fine. Thank you very much. That was just.
And just to confirm, we do have a meeting in the diary exactly to do that. So
Super. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. Officers, do you wish to add anything to the, and who, Tom is online? Do you wish to add anything?
Nothing from me, thank you, Chair.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Right, now we open it up to questions from Scrutiny Committee councillors. Can I say that I'm sure that a lot of people have read the, how many pages, Lee? The lots of pages, and you have probably quite a number of questions. So what I am going to limit it to 3 questions per councillor to go round, but then another 3 if we need to, etc., etc. And I would ask councillors and officers that when questions are asked, if we could have succinct answers, and then we can really get through this report very well. The whole point of this report is to come up with a really, really good consultation exercise that merits, the comments that the public have at the beginning of this meeting, that we really have got to try, where possible, to capture all of these consultation points. We're now, and I will shut up in a moment, we are now not at the point of just building houses. We are green spaces, we are environment, we are climate change, we are reducing the number of houses and the balance of housing. So we've got to look at this holistically. It's not just a bricks and mortars organised. It's not just a bricks and mortar thing now. So, as in my one, I will probably ask a few questions later on in the process, that's what I do as a chair. I come in at the end. So, any questions, please?
Inevitably, sorry.
Yes, do.
Looking at it, first of all, it's an excellent approach to getting information in. I've focused a lot on Appendix 2, which is the set of questions that we're going to be asking, because that's the, in my mind, that's the edge of that's what we're doing here. And I have noticed that there's a lot of questions on housing, and spatial awareness and carbon, all the good things I wanted to see, but there was one omission at the end. In the local plan, the IN policies, IN1 through IN7, which are infrastructure. All of our residents, in my experience anyway, are extremely interested in infrastructure, not just community infrastructure, transport infrastructure, very large reservoirs, bypasses, major roads, whether they start with HIF or not. And on one of these, IN3, is it? IN2 or IN3? IN3, transport infrastructure and safeguarding. There's a long list of transport schemes that have been safeguarded. And I can see that on some of them, there's ones where my residents will want to be very supportive. I've poured pop senseless over the Milton Heights pedestrian and cycle bridge route, example. But there's also at least one where some of my residents are very interested in commenting on, the Southern Abingdon Movement Corridor, which does sound like it's the South Abingdon bypass brought back from the dead. And the safeguarding of land from that in the past has prevented a charity in my ward from expanding and providing social housing in conjunction with the council, even though it was looked at that bypass will never ever happen. Land is safeguarded and it seems to be rolled forward. So I don't want to have a pop at that being in the local plan because that's off topic. But is there a route to getting residents' views on the infrastructure chunks, and specifically things like Transport 1 and the reservoir, but other infrastructure areas?
Yeah, there are two ways to obviously that residents can respond, and they can use both ways. So the nutshell document, which I think has already received quite a lot of focus this evening, is really to try and capture, we're trying to get as many people as possible to respond to the plan, more than ever, by engaging in every way we can. And one of them is the nutshell document that people can use on their phones. And section 9 of that deals with community infrastructure.
But, yeah,
they can switch at any point in time. They can also complete as many questions as they like of the full preferred options consultation. And that is where also their detail can be captured too. And I think, I turn to officers here to confirm, but I think that it's going to be quite clear when you're doing the nutshell that you can switch into the full document.
All right, I hadn't picked that up.
Yeah, so I think I'll just hand over to Stu.
I'm happy to pick that up. You're absolutely right. There's two options. People can respond in sort of quick fire way using the JLP in a nutshell questions, which we've designed so that you didn't have to read the whole plan, or people can enter their details and answer policy by policy, or skip as many or as few as they want to.
Useful,
so people can certainly go to IN3 and give their comments in full. Do they agree with the policy options, and then do they agree with the preferred option that we've suggested, and do they have any other thoughts on the matter? So yes, they will be able to answer in full. In terms of the Abingdon bypass, that the safeguarding is all mapped in the policies map. So I'd encourage you to have a click and look at the policies map, which again is a bit of innovation that we've done,
right,
so that people can see in an easy way.
Trying to find a way to do that.
Couldn't. Okay, I will send you a special link, but I know it's in the papers as well. But yeah, I think that would be the answer to your question there.
But in a way, picking that up, sorry to interject,
Yeah.
If Andy's having difficulty and he's an enthusiast, does that mean that the comms for the ability to switch in and switch out, and also looking at the map, needs to be better? Or we need to pick that up?
We will pick that up. We will make it better. At the moment, you haven't seen as part of your pack the full consultation form. You've seen the nutshell one. So I think once that one's up,
Hopefully
the
full form will guide me to it then.
Yes, and the document already, the local plan links to the policies map, and so there's a tab on that for the story maps, which is the interactive website.
Andy, carry on.
A second one. How solid are the questions currently being put in? Because a couple of them, I've been involved in survey questions before. It's very easy to write ones that you try to make very specific, but then they confuse people and get lost. I'm looking at page 5. How far do you agree or disagree with not planning for significant large-scale house building beyond what is already identified in the last local plan? As soon as you put a not in a question, you can confuse people. And how far do you agree or disagree? It's ideal to actually put an agree or disagree, but that, again, can confuse. Do you disagree with not planning for significant beyond? You see where I'm coming from? You're negating up and down repeatedly there. So I don't know exactly how to fix it, but if I was to disagree with not planning for significant building beyond what is already identified, I'm not completely clear with what I'm saying.
I get your point. I think the significant policy here was to not plan for significant above what's already planned. And do you agree with us taking that approach, or do you not agree with us taking that approach?
It might be
It's
better
the
to
language
break
I
down the
appreciate.
question a bit further. The policy is to plan only for the current significant one and not beyond. Do you agree or disagree with this? That's a little bit.
Let's not
Anyway,
answer those specifics, but are you saying,
That's where look at that.
are
because-
you saying that the broader question is that are the questions that are in this document fixed?
or can they
Are
be
they going to be looked at for grammar and for
confusion?
confusionality? Let's say that.
They
Let's
have
ask that
already
question.
been, believe it or not.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yes.
So that
yes.
particular one, that's why I'm saying, can we take that away? But I don't know if Lucy wants to, or
Yeah,
George wants to
we
comment.
can still make edits to things. We have worked on this with the steering group. We've run through the whole questionnaire in a live session and edited. Our community engagement team has also helped us in great detail with all of the work.
Like beforehand.
So, you know, I've noted down the points you've made, and thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll
And the broad
have a-
point is if we spot any others, feed them in.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it from me, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to go to Joe Rob first, mainly. Joe, can I ask you questions?
Thank you, Chair.
Mainly if the comms go down, then we captured your thoughts and comments. Okay.
I
And then
appreciate it.
Tony, I'm coming to you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to extend my sincere thanks to the officers who worked on this document, which is absolutely remarkable. And thank you, Anne-Marie and Andy, and all of the officers and members who had things to do with this, because it's quite extraordinary to read a local plan draft consultation document like this that is so ambitious and so exciting. So thank you very much for that. I wanted to start by asking a question I already asked before, but I would be interested in finding out whether or not it's possible to include in the preferred options paper or some reference to heat transfer or encouraging heat transfer, given the data centres that we're likely to have coming forward. That's the first thing. The second thing is around housing numbers, and I'm very happy for this to be answered offline by email if that's more appropriate. But given that nearly half of our district is designated as AOMB, about a third, I think, is designated as Greenbelt, and given the high levels of historic housing supply we have baked into our existing local plan, I wonder if there is any justification for an exceptional circumstances type approach to justify us going below the standard method. Just a thought, I'm sure officers have reviewed this and have good reason why we're going with standard method, but I'm just interested to find out. And finally, the in a nutshell document, I appreciate that this is probably not the format it will be seen in. This is more like a draft for us to review the text, but just to pick up on the comments that that Andy made earlier about clicking through. Well, firstly, very nitpicky, but the font is tiny. I'm assuming that that will not be the font size of the actual consultation nutshell document, but also the ability to be able to click through from each question and to get straight into the policy, so people can read the nutshell question, click straight through to that policy, and then go straight back very easily. I think I had a little bit of difficulty doing that with the nutshell. So anything that can be done to make that more streamlined would be amazing. But just to say thank you very much indeed. And it's quite exciting to see some policies that I've been passionate about, such as dark skies and rivers and water efficiency going into the plan. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Sorry, Joe, thank you for your question. Can I ask you to wrap in an answer to Sue Roberts's question, which is in public participation, which is about the option numbers? Can we take a constrained approach? And can we backload the numbers in the thing? That sort of juxtaposes with what Joe has said.
Officers might need to come in and step in and correct me if I say something wrong, but from what I understand, in terms of Sue Robertson's approach, I mean, that will be looked at when we get to the Reg 19 stage later in, for that consultation. And officers could go into detail if you wanted more about that. I think with regard to Joe, I think they obviously have looked at housing need, and they believe we've been advised that standard method is the option that we should go for. The no local exceptional circumstances, I think they believe, to justify going lower. So that's our position there. But having said that, this is a Reg 18 Part 2 consultation, and those policies, I mean, I'd just like to say it lengthy pages, many pages, but very unusually, we've given you loads of bonus material, draft policies written out. That's quite unusual, I believe, from what I've understood. So we're pushing the boundaries there even for you. And so that really helps, I think. Sue Roberts, Joe, all those policy points, please respond to the consultation. Ask those questions in the consultation so that they can come through. And obviously the consultation responses will then be shared afterwards.
And can I just pick up the point on font size? That's going to be improved.
Absolutely, yeah.
If I could say that,
Just
yes.
the quick point.
Yeah, when the consultation is done, it won't be as it is now as a PDF. It will be an interactive web page. So the font will be whatever you've set it up for your particular eyes, and you will be able to click through. You won't have to scroll in the
Okay.
So it'll be much better.
I do have one more point actually as well, is to say that the districts are covered. I think it was you, Joe, that mentioned by large amounts of greenbelt and AONB.
Yep.
But our land availability assessment shows there is sufficient, that there is sufficient unconstrained land to accommodate our standard method levels of growth.
Existing. Thank you very much. Joe,
Thank
do you want to come back?
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, thank you. Tony.
Yeah, so a couple of completely unrelated points, but
good.
Bringing in David Marsh's comments about allowing certain organisations to respond in the form of reports, I certainly would support
Ask
that.
the question.
So I would certainly encourage any kind of way of allowing people to respond. I think that's a very good point made. The allowing people to suggest innovations if there's something not shown, such as in whatever facilities, would be good. And just coming to the point about the questions. Now, I work in the railway industry and I speak in jargon all the time, and I could go off and people wouldn't understand a word of it. But it might actually be worthwhile getting somebody in who doesn't understand the process just to actually check the questions are very clear, because I know myself, I understand it perfectly what a word means, but it might be, if you're too close to it, you might not see that it's a bit confusing. So whether there's a case of asking a non-professional to actually check that actually the wording is clear and unambiguous, that might be helpful.
I'll pick up on that. Absolutely, we want to facilitate the maximum possible engagement with the third options. I know that officers are already engaging with town and parish councils to say, look, this is coming, here's where you can get it all. They can pick up the pack that we've had tonight. They can submit their consultation responses. As we said, they can pick in individual sections. It is so much easier when we can pre-classify things as it's in this general area, it's that general area. I appreciate that some people will want to hand around a document and annotate it and then compile that and then submit it. at the consultation events, you've got a number of these, will be 10 events already planned across the district in a range of venues. There will be officers there that will take people through it if they wish to take a paper-based approach rather than an electronic sort of digital first approach. We've got to hear these voices from whatever manner they want to be involved in getting their comments into us. We want to hear more people rather than less, and it would help us with it if they can submit them online, but we're not going to say we're not going to listen to you if you're not submitting them online.
I think on that particular point, I think you will need to have a hybrid method, because there will be parish councils. There will, and David, thank you for the question, which is good. You will have parish councils that will submit online on Broadband, but they will also submit their 50-page document and CPRE, the 50-page document, to say you haven't thought about this or that or that. But the plea would be try and put it in the sections that you've done for the online. Anne-Marie,
Yeah,
sorry.
I've got some things to add. I mean, we have worked very closely, the officers have worked very closely with the POBS team. But that doesn't mean that your comments now are not going to be taken into account, because just before this meeting, we're talking about more proofreading. So that was a really good point to make, actually, about someone with fresh eyes coming in and having a look and making sure it's readable. The other thing, in addition to the events, also there are going to be some events try and reach seldom heard groups too, because again, we're trying to make this as broad an engagement and capture as many views as possible to feed in. And parish councils, the options that also, if they use the full preferred options document, they can save it. And I think we're going to take away, officers are going to take away how the sharing point for that. That was very useful, the comment that you made there. And I think that was everything I was going to say on that.
Can I just pick up one more that David said? It was a very good contribution. He pointed out, whether this is right or wrong, but it was what he pointed out, that in the nutshell document, the summary might well mislead, or might be different from the main document. So it may well mislead if the nutshell document says X and the main document is nuanced. How would you respond to that?
I think I'll hand that one over to
That's the legal
analysis
Or
one.
have you checked the nutshell document to make sure it does map over to the main document?
A lot of the language is taken directly from.
Yeah.
And
But it appears as though Davey thought some of it
Abbreviated.
wasn't, so that was.
I think we have to accept, in summarising, we're producing a summary, and so it is that, and we have to acknowledge when we're assessing the responses that we will need to process the responses separately. So they'll be presented and analysed separately and reported separately within the same consultation response. Effectively, we're running two consultations here, and we'll need to judge those responses accordingly. We'll be allowing anonymous responses to the nutshell document. We'll be requiring named responses to the main consultation. So there'll be a slightly different way of nuancing those responses, but we'll be assessing them separately and thinking about how that informs us in going forward that draft plan.
Super. Catherine.
I just want to reiterate that the big policies, all of this is such an exciting local plan, and I'm really excited to be part of this council pushing this forward. And with that in mind, I'm now going to talk about the nutshell document, because I don't feel that the nutshell document conveys that sense of ambition and excitement about the local plan and actually how good this is, and how excited our residents should also be about what this is offering our district. And so I just felt my gut reaction to the nutshell, that having come back to it again and hasn't gone away, is that the nutshell document feels nervous. It feels like, yes, it is a summary, but we want some of the vision back. just a bit of the vision that says, so you've got here, yeah, a local plan looks ahead 15 years. Okay. Why are we excited? Why do we want to bring our residents with us on this? And I think there's one item within the nutshell that comes up, which kind of illustrates what this kind of sense of nervousness. And that's about, in two places, there's hedging around the cost of these policies. So section 11, you talk about nature recovery, section 3, net zero carbon. In both of those, you specifically say, oh, as long as they're not too expensive. And I think what we really need to do with this is challenge a very, very common perception that green policies are expensive and too expensive. And we need to flip that around, and we need to say, and you actually do it, that the sentence is there on page 216 in policy CU2. Building technologies are improving year on year, and the public increasingly wants homes that are cheaper to run. So that's the vision. It says we're bringing this local plan because it's the best thing to do. And if it adds 3 or 4% on the cost, you will save that infinitely, and our districts will be infinitely better because we'll have no more nature, we'll have more wildlife, we'll have better houses, we'll have warmer houses. And so I just want a bit of that vision into the nutshell that says this is great and these policies are great. And when you go to the policies, and at every level, we've gone for the policy that pushes us furthest and is best. So reading through those preferred options was genuinely exciting. And I really want to express how, that, but I want more of that in the nutshell.
Comments?
Thank you. And I'm delighted to hear your enthusiasm for this plan. I've lived it these past few months, and as one of the later people to take up with this particular baton, I'm excited with it too. I believe it's really positive. It's the best we could possibly deliver for our districts. And my only regret is that we can't actually show some of the publicity and comms messaging that's going to be wrapped around this in the documents we're taking to you. That is what will contain the fizz, the excitement. We're going to be sort of stumping out our ways to learn events and areas across the districts, and some specific ones for hard to reach communities. And we're going to be stressing the enthusiasm, the vision, and that actually this is something we can be excited about, something that when we deliver it, we can be proud of.
Yeah.
That's honestly, I never want to be a second-rate local plan. So
Thank you, Andy. Lee?
Yeah, I think we should, for me, what when reading through this is it's a pleasure to see what a contrast we have from the plan that was submitted to the inspector last time. Bearing in mind that plan as submitted to the inspector didn't have virtually a damn word about green in it. The climate change, renewables, all that stuff didn't even feature. It had all been stripped out and dumped. It was in the core strategy before. And bizarrely, it was lost on the way. So I think we should, I said it was a case study virtually in how not to do it, how not to do plan making. And it's a pleasure to read this with all of the things that are in it, and so many of the comments that went back about what was wrong with last time and where the issues were. So much of it has been picked up, which is great. And I thank everyone for that. And in terms of the nutshell, I do think it's worth just mentioning one or two things like the strength of the green dimension in this, that it is a big step on from where we were. And yeah, a bit managed to get in on the back foot, trying to argue unsound and so forth with the inspector and late changes. But that's not the way to do it. This is the right way to do it on the front foot. So that's great. I do have a question about density, and it's just really one of understanding. If I look at DE4, I like what I think I'm reading, where it talks about design-led and being intelligently flexible and reflecting local character and all those good things. When I get down to master plans, we're back to the old language. We're back to density per hectare. Bang, bang, bang. It's kind of much more rigid. And one of the things I'm very anxious that we do is we don't retain density per hectare. And to be fair, that's not in the document. So I'm hoping that's the way you're going. But I wasn't 100% clear where that was. I would like to see something that is much more
But
fluid.
it's not in the document. They're not consulting on it. So.
Well, yes, I'm hoping that what it's signalling is a move away from a rigid density per hectare, because that having that flexibility and having DM managers with something in front of them.
Pull you back to the consultation
Yeah,
document.
no,
You can give the dollars of praise towards in the conclusion.
The question was asked about housing numbers, and I'm not sure what the answer is, but I know from what I heard last time that things like the Oxford unmet needs, that there was a lot of pressure to say, look, this is time critical, and therefore if we were to say stepped and push it back into the manana, I don't know, I suspect we might come across problems down the line with that. Housing mix, there is stuff in there. We know what a disaster we've had in the decade that's gone by. In our market housing, the 4+ homes were supposed to be 24%. They're 2.5 times that. And that means that the 1 to 3s are nearly half what they should have been. And that has been a really big problem. It's not, in some ways it's an accident, because it was the result of extensions and permissive development and other things that got in the way that have changed.
Are you saying on the mix?
I'm just coming
on then.
I'm just coming to it. After 2018, the NPPF, as I understand it, requires all sectors of housing need to be provided. It hasn't been. And in my understanding, for plan making, we're absolutely required to deliver on statutory requirements like equalities, which if we were to go on like we've been doing in the past, I believe we'd be in fundamental breach of, and that would be a really serious problem. So I think that is something that we do need to address. But to be fair, the document does identify the problem and say we're going to do more work on that. Yeah. So that much is in there. I like the jobs homes, the homes jobs, trying to get the co-location, recognising that Didcot's got more homes than jobs, so having some more jobs there makes sense. That's provided for. I don't think we should, and we're not proposing more employment land near Oxford. I wondered about, there was some nods towards, maybe we could get some of our SME business, some of our stuff towards the areas where we've got more homes than jobs, like in many of our rural areas. But it was a bit unclear what we could do, and it certainly occurs to me that when it comes to reuse of brownfield farms and allowances through neighbourhood plans, there might be a little bit of leeway that we could give there to help that process. What's smart about what's in there is it's blocking off speculative attempts, and that's a theme through it. There's a lot of thought gone into this, and I can see it in so many of the areas where the speculative routes are being closed down very nicely and correctly. So that's good. I hope we get forward with accessible homes. Obviously, the spirit has changed from when Inspector Bohr was crossing out bits of market homes being provided with a percentage of lifetime and wheelchair accessible. So that's good. I noted again with regards to the speculative stuff that Gypsy, Specialist Older, and Specialist Self-Build, that there's a lot of thought gone into that, and again appropriately targeting it. So that's really, really good. There are some bits of the past that still seem to creep in. When we talk about growth, it still seems to use the language of all growth good.
Lee, I'm going to give you another minute.
Okay, I'm coming to the
question. These are all good stuff, but thank you for the question.
Yeah, I'm just anxious. We're very clear that we're not going for ultimate growth. We're not going for devil may care maximum growth. And I think we should make something of that and say and recognise that it's not just about the economy and growth. It's about the social and the environmental as well. And that there's a balance, that there is a circumstance in which too much.
I'm going to pause, so I'll allow you back in. I'll let Anne-Marie.
I just want to say, I'm really pleased that I'm hearing a lot of excitement about the draft policies that are already in place and the plan as a whole. And so I'm really pleased to hear that, Lee. And I'm also pleased that you're really keen to see the next stage when you get the information that you're really keen on. And unfortunately, we can't offer you that this consultation. But what I can say is please respond to the consultation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Lee, another
So
quick interjection.
I'm nearly there, and I, yes, we will have the viability to come. I've got some other detailed points, but I think there's just a lot of good stuff in here. So,
come back in a moment. Anyway, Lee, well done.
And on my question on density, I don't know if I could. There was a question in there somewhere.
Well, ask the question. Are we going to go with the house
density, and are we stepping away for?
Or is that not part of this?
Well, it's a bit of a mix in the fact that we've got the optimizing. We do need to recognise that. We're trying to acknowledge that.
Sure. But it does it in design-led language.
Yeah, and we want to set some parameters with our master plans, so we've got a starting point for those discussions.
Yeah, I'm just thoughtful about whether it's GIA or whether it's federal, not just a crude density per hectare, which just gets.
But is there an opportunity in this consultation for a member of the public to actually say the views that Lee's saying, that we should not be just driven by density housing?
Absolutely, and the approach that Lee's sort of advocating is a more nuanced approach than just development per hectare.
Okay.
And that is, of course, something that you can bring out because we're asking a question about, well, these are the alternatives. This is our preferred approach. But if you've got any other views, then do say them.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one final smaller question about in the JLP, the nutshell document, section 13, where we've got the graphics related to the allocations, which are being deleted, edited or expanded. On the face of it, when you look at that graphic quite quickly, there looks to be quite a big imbalance between Vale and South. And I'm wondering whether residents will respond to that. And partly I think that's because you have the images of the houses and they don't represent the size of the allocations, they simply represent size. And so it actually makes it look like more's being deallocated in South than in Vale. And having listened to our parish councils and lots of residents, the question they want to know is, are we getting another massive allocation outside our village? And so I'm worried about people looking at that too quickly. And I would just wonder if there's a way of changing that graphic to represent allocations in terms of their size, whether it's different size circles or and I think that would reduce the sense of an imbalance between the two districts.
It's yeah. I suppose what we're trying to articulate with that diagram is one particular thing. It's the review of the sites which haven't got planning permission. What we have tried to really do through the key diagram is to demonstrate all the sites that are out there and that spread. So I would encourage, I guess, the use of that diagram if you're going to share it around to say, look, this is the spread and the effect of what's going on. We're quite mindful of what happened in the previous key diagrams where we focused on perhaps the new sites, not recognising we'd already had or have sites that are delivering or are going to deliver or already in existing plans. So slightly nuanced in terms of what we're trying to message. Whether we can be clear, I think that's some point that we can take away.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a question. Oh, sorry, no, we're going to pause for a moment. Right, we are coming up to. Candida's got 3 minutes to 9, and 9 o'clock is the cut-off point for this committee. However, we can vote for a 30-minute extension. I think we're doing rather well at the moment, so therefore I will propose that we might not use all 30 minutes, but I propose an extra 30 minutes. Bear in mind that 9:30 is the brick wall. So Yeah. So I propose, do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Seconder, any other proposals? 15 minutes extension? No, you can't have that. Right. All those in favour of a 30-minute extension?
I think we need to get this done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay,
Abstain.
right.
I'm gonna have to make tracks about 40 past at the latest.
Andy,
because I've gotta-
get your comments in before 9:15 then.
Because I've got to get home and then get ready to get
No.
out to
Of
work.
course, yes,
Okay.
yes. No, we understand that. It wasn't. Can I ask another one that John Salmon asked from the public? In local plans, it was to do with green spaces. And is there an invitation in the consultation to table green spaces? He did reference Henley, which I know in our neighbourhood plan, we have 12 or 13 designated green spaces. So the question is, does the consultation have the opportunity to submit those, or is that coming later?
Thank you.
Andy?
Thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for actually.
Thank John for
Thank you,
raising
John.
it.
Dean, thank you for actually hitting on the major way that we approach this, which is through the neighbourhood plan process, because there you've already got community groups, town parish councils bringing their suggestions for green space allocation. That's how we see it. We've got a very strong offer of support for emerging neighbourhood plans. We want to support it, want to go that way.
And if there's an area that doesn't have a neighbourhood plan?
I think what would also be really helpful, that we do have the policy HP4 in the consultation, existing open space.
Yeah,
Tony, I'll come to
That
you in
would
a
be a real opportunity for Mr. Salmons and probably Tony and others to really raise those to the attention and bring those forward in the consultation responses. And I think the other thing to point out is that I think there was a mention of what other local planning authorities do. I think we have to remember that we are real champions in both South and Vale for neighbourhood planning. That's why we were chosen to run the pilot schemes. So basically, we have a lot of neighbourhood plans. Other councils don't have a lot of neighbourhood plans. Cherwell was mentioned. I know we definitely have more than Cherwell. So I think, sort of please do feed into the consultation if there are green spaces that you think should be brought to the attention. And I don't know if officers want to add anything further.
I guess just to say, yes, a local green space does give something the same level of protection as Greenbelt. But anyway, our proposed policy in the local plan will protect every green space anyway. So we think that there's already that layer and the option for communities to do a neighbourhood plan to if they want to give it that local green space status.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Yep, so one of the areas that doesn't have a neighbourhood plan is Didcot. Although it's being considered by the parish council at the moment, that process will not be complete ahead of the joint local plan process. So Didcot being the biggest town in the district, actually there isn't a way of people registering that for Didcot at the moment. And I know John Salmons lives in Didcot like I do. So actually being able to feed in Didcot requirements at the moment, there isn't a way of doing that because we don't.
I think you misunderstood me. That it's not necessarily feeding in Didcot requirements for a neighbourhood plan. It's highlighting. The consultation is all about gathering information as well. So really, if there are spaces that they think should be considered, but I think also Lucy's point, which I've actually forgotten to highlight, in that HP4 existing open space, is that policy there's already a very, very high level of protection. So I sort of would actually quite like to ask officers, but I'm not the one asking questions about what neighbourhood plans do in addition. I guess it's the neighbourhood plans, it's local people really identifying at a lower micro level exactly.
So I think all people who are considering a neighbourhood plan know that you can put log green spaces. We're going to protect this. It's really the areas where there isn't a neighbourhood plan. So you're saying that the consultation enables Didcot as an example to say, right, we want to try and, or the Didcot Parish Council to actually say, we want to try and protect this.
I'm
The
not saying that.
opportunity is there.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's an opportunity to identify green spaces, the areas that they'd like to see as green spaces, and it's an opportunity also
Okay.
to just recognise that HP4 gives a high level of protection already.
Okay.
But I'm not
So you
a
could-
planning policy officer, so I better
But
check I haven't
HP4,
said
in
something
other
out of
words,
turn.
you are saying HP4 gives the opportunity.
No,
for
I'm
people
saying
to-
HP4 already offers a high level of protection. I'm saying consultation. Where would they respond in the consultation?
Well,
to-
you could
to highlight
respond
spaces.
under that one, or
Yeah.
in the any other things you want to tell us section at the end.
Okay, so thank you. There's the opportunity.
So just to follow up and clarify, if there are locations in the districts we want to propose or suggest, identify, that can be done through the consultation, even if there's no neighbourhood planning. Thank you.
Welcome to put them in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Ron and then Lee. Ron,
Yes, I wanted to, I had some confusion when I started looking at this, identifying where the tiers were, specified. And they're mentioned several times in the nutshell, but in fact, they're not, defined in the nutshell. So I think if you want to find out what the tiers actually mean, you do have to go to the main document, SP2, which is spatial allocation. So I think the tiers, are perhaps a bit confusing till you find out just where they are.
I'm going to check with officers, but I think there's another document, more of there's going to be a document published alongside the consultation, which will actually give you much more information on how the tiers are arrived at. Is that correct? And it probably has a name.
Yeah, it's called the settlement assessment.
Yes, I mean, it was in the main document as SP2, I think, yes. But
It will be pulled out.
I was looking at other parts of the document first, and it kept on referring to tier 1 to 4, and I couldn't find out where tier 1 to 4 what it actually meant. The related question, I think it's probably reasonable. When we look at the town allocation, it's a different set of tiers totally. The one which put Didcot in a sort of category of its own, and it's number 1, and then everybody else goes down to number 2 and 3. Could that be a bit confused? Because they're also called tiers, I think.
Okay, I think you're talking about the retail hierarchy.
The retail hierarchy, yes, I have.
Different sections.
Yeah.
Different, unfortunately not. Due to the evidence that we've got, they are separate things. I appreciate that there might be some confusion around that.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
when we-
different tiers depending on what part of the document you're in.
Well, I think we could probably take that point away to see if we can find, make sure there's a cross reference to the other.
Or can I just say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I suppose reinforce what Catherine said that I noticed in the biodiversity was too expensive. I was very worried about that in the nutshell document.
Yeah, if I could say, we do need to test the viability of the policies that we develop, because that's one of the tests at examination. Our policies have to be effective, and if we make it so that it would be too expensive for any developer to bring anything forward, that wouldn't be an effective policy. So I guess we're putting those references in there to sound that note of caution that we do still need to do a viability assessment to check that the high standards that we're proposing can all be met, because we'll have to do it in the round. You know, if we have this level of affordable housing and this level of biodiversity net gain and this level of water efficiency, etc., that all of that is still going to work. So I've put those in there just as a sort of an indicator that we will need to make sure that that testing is done, and that's the reason for that. It is something that we can't get away from, that there will be this testing and examination of the effectiveness of the policy.
Perhaps it's just the word expensive, perhaps could find another word around.
Yeah, we did consider viable, but then we thought that's too jargony for the nutshell, so we tried to explain it in the simplest possible terms, which was too expensive to make development go ahead. But yeah, I can see that it's it's a very tricky one.
I'm going to go to Lee and then Judy. Sorry, Lee. And then Andy, bear in mind, you may have to go if you. No, think of one. You've got to think of one. Yes, you have. I've given you the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
A couple of quick points, just to finish off that growth point.
Yeah.
I'm just anxious that we don't just go down the all growth good route, and that we highlight productivity growth and those kind of things that we're looking for, rather than mass population growth as a way of growing GVA and the value of the overall economy, recognising the weight to be given to social environmental as well. And coming on to the point you made about viability, that was going to be my next question in terms of consultation. If it turns out to be the case that asking for 50% social housing, all of the green stuff that we're looking for, and many of the other things that we've put in, it comes out that actually we've got some viability challenges, whether the consultation is going to give us any help in trying to say, well, okay, how are these different things valued?
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, there could be, I hope there isn't, but there could be a moment when we do have to prioritise, and we'll work with members to make sure that your priorities are reflected in that.
Okay, but so far you're hopeful that we'll.
I would just say,
That's anticipatory.
I know it's a word that I've been told off by my own family for using, but you know, the whole point of this plan, under sort of developing it very much under that Oxfordshire strategic vision as well, is a holistic approach.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we're not going into, officers haven't been approaching this in a piecemeal fashion. It's very much an overview. And so obviously it's going to have to be tested for viability, but you haven't gone into this drafting policies in the hope that they're going to fail at the next step. You know, we're trying to push the boundaries.
Well,
And
we
we'll have to
should
see
be
how far we
ambitious
can
and aspirational. That's good.
And if I can add on the overall approach, it's so much embedded in the two corporate plans. What you see front and centre in those plans is what we're trying to deliver through this joint local plan. So the climate emergency stuff, the biodiversity, it's in the DNA. It's and the affordable.
I completely agree with what you and Amber
that's the direction
said
we're going in.
on that. It's just there's one or two places where it's almost a bit like the old language, and growth is great. We're really looking for loads of growth.
Okay,
More on the economic side. But yeah.
thanks very much. Andy.
Well, first off, I'd like to congratulate. I just went straight into nitpicking earlier, so I'd like to congratulate you on a really good local plan and a very comprehensive exercise to try and get information in. The one thing I can think of that might be completely off the wall, or you might already have covered, a box for, is there anything you would have liked to have seen in this local plan that you haven't seen yet?
I think it's at the end.
Because I was just looking to see if there was one at the end, but there was one about suggesting new brownfield sites, but I couldn't see a generic. Is there? But my thing keeps on freezing. So
Hand over to officers.
the last one is asking about physical or mental health conditions.
Lucy?
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Section 15, is there anything else you would like to tell us? Let us know in the box below.
Yeah, that's not specifically is there anything you would like to have seen in the local plan that isn't in there? Is slightly
Language.
different because
I'm trying to work on the language.
I know it's a language
Yeah.
because anything else you'd like to tell us could be
Other comments for.
Yeah. Can I have chicken and chips tonight?
get rid of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits or something if you listen to something different. But is there anything you'd like to see? They can come up with some really bizarre things, or they
So
can.
what were you saying? Anything?
Is there anything you would have liked to have seen in the local plan that you haven't?
Which links to the innovation point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can blame him for it because he made me come up with a question.
I'll tell you what, Andy, that's the best one you've asked all evening.
That's what I've asked in 4 years.
No, you've done well. And Andy, you're going to go now,
Yeah.
but thank you for your contribution.
Sorry for being part-time.
Well, you're off to work, which is yeah.
Well, I'm off to go to bed before going to.
Fine. Good. Right. Judy.
Yes, a very small nitpicky one on in policy IN5 parking standards. When you get down to 2D, it says where new development seeks to provide internal cycle parking, the cycle parking must be convenient with no more than 2 doors required to access internal cycling facilities. I remember a particular application where the cycle parking was situated in the hall. Unfortunately, I think that would meet that criteria. And I wonder whether secure or some other word other than internal, because you could have, it's too wide using the word internal. I think what you mean is secure parking, lockable parking structures. But
So is that something to feed into the consultation? It's a detail on the policy.
Yeah.
But I'm just a bit worried that was a bit wide.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I know what you mean, but that could mean a lot of other things.
That's why we need a consultation to make it better.
Just to pick up the point that was made by the very first speaker about the sewage map, I think it would be useful to have that in the document as information, but possibly not where it was suggesting.
Yes, I feel like I'm not sure we would have permission to put Thames Water's sewage map, a screenshot of it or a picture of it within our document. I don't think we've got for an image.
I mean, can you not put a link through to it, or is that that's beyond
Look into that, but I don't want to sort of breach any kind of copyright thing by linking to something we shouldn't. Okay, but yeah, I understand the point and how wanted to make that.
How can we refer to the problems that we have within the water industry? Or
Well, I guess that's not what our joint local plan consultation is necessary. I mean, we've got policies to address development, and obviously that's an issue.
I suppose it's highlighting what the issues are.
Yeah,
People that
but if you do a link to Thames Water, then people start thinking it's our responsibility what Thames Water are doing.
Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. So we haven't discussed.
Okay, right.
Just to follow through on that, would that have cut any ice, Lucy, in terms of the presumption of statutory obligation to deliver anyway? That in my understanding, the traditional approach has been whatever the housing need is, Thames Water have got to deliver on it, or the water authorities have got to deliver on it, and they've got long enough over 15 years to fix it. So, although one could say it shouldn't go ahead as a development until it's in place, perhaps.
In a way, this comes to a certain extent. This comes back to the first question that I've been throughout the meeting jotting down all of the points that you've made, and one point that came out is the consultation on infrastructure. Is it adequate? GPs, schools, sewage, the lot. So I think we can roll a comment in from Scrutiny on that particular point.
Can I also just make the point that
Yeah.
Thames Water are also a statutory consultee, aren't they? So presumably they'll be responding too.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions from James Barlow and put it on notice to the committee that in 5 minutes, I think we're going to wrap this up. So if in the next 5 minutes you sort of give the last burning point that you wish to raise, in 5 minutes, I will be drawing the meeting to a conclusion. So James Barlow, member of the public, came and he, and really I think this is a question, he said, is there an opportunity in the joint local neighbourhood plan, the joint local plan consultation, to talk about the carbon footprint of building versus, climate change? If you build a load of houses, a load of concrete, etc., blah, 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 is there an opportunity in this consultation for people to say that particular point? His next point was, and it was wrapped in by saying, if we are creating so many thousand tons of carbon from the concrete, is there a measure of renewable energy offsetting for that particular bit? And again, can you consult on that? He then went into ecology, which I think has been covered, and green spaces. So it's really those two particular points about carbon footprint, carbon concrete, renewable energy.
Can I just make just make the comment and then I'll hand over the detail to officers because I'm not going to comment on that. But I think that we've got to remember that our whole approach to this plan and through our corporate plans, through the Oxfordshire strategic vision, was to place climate emergency action, sort of really as an important thread throughout it all. Of course, you do still have to get the plan through examination and you still have national planning policy framework and guidelines that we're working to. And I think that's where I might hand over to officers because I think, there's a degree of I mean, we have had, obviously we've got consultants working on this and you can see the number of policies to address climate and climate change and environment, the CE policies, net zero carbon buildings. I think I won't go into the detail of what each one does. But I think that we've got to remember that climate change is also a national thing, it's an existential thing. It's not just a local thing. And so I think that's where the trouble comes when you start saying, housing numbers or buildings or whatever. But I'll pass over at this stage to the experts, unless you want to say something as well, Andy.
I was going to add in, I mean, you've covered a huge amount of policy CE2 is specifically on net zero carbon buildings, but includes the construction and operation. So it's clearly there. It's a real focus for us. So
What was that point? What?
CE2.
CE2, right, okay, thank you.
Our draft policy CE2.
Thank you.
CE1.
Lucy, do you want to
Oh,
add?
just- Thank you very much. You've answered it really well. I think the question was about what's the how much renewable energy will you need to offset 9,000 homes roughly? But actually, the standard of the homes that we're going to see is so high that we're seeking for net zero carbon homes, which will need, in many cases, to use renewable energy to make sure that they're achieving that target. So it's not as if they're going to be traditional homes with the traditional level of emissions. They will be net zero carbon homes. So I think that's the answer. Really, it's the high standards of policies and the advice that we've had from our consultants, which are very much pushing the boundaries.
It reminds me of, I think Sue Roberts brought it up, we have policies on retrofitting. And actually also I think she mentioned homes being divided. I think that's one of our policies as well, isn't it?
Okay. Catherine?
It was just to note, Chair, if I may, that Councillor Sarah James, who's a Vale councillor, was registered to speak at the initial meeting. She wasn't able to attend this evening, but she has submitted a statement that officers already have, and I just wanted to note and to say if we could but I think I'm just reading through it. I think much of what Councillor James brought up we've discussed, and certainly I picked up some but just to
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, councillors, next minute, any final? We've done very well. Okay. If I can summarise, and we'll take a recommendation, we will also take a vote, and then we will do the thanks and all that jazz. Right, on our paper, on the agenda paper, it says, thank you, Candida. I did say to Candida a moment ago, do you write up the minutes for this? And she said yes. So good luck with that.
Simple.
Yes. So anyway, thank you. Right, the recommendation from Joint Scrutiny is this. The committee is being asked to review this report and share any comments or suggestions with the head of policy and programmes, sub-cabinet member for planning and Vale cabinet member for corporate services, policy and programmes for consideration prior to the commencement of the consultation period. Okay, I'm going to add to that Anne-Marie and Andy did say at the beginning that if we came out with useful suggestions, you would take it back to cabinet, and that was one of.
I don't think it's taking it back to cabinet.
Sorry, we taken into account. Although
delegated.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay. The things I have picked up in addition to this is it seems that the committee is full of praise for this document. It is visionary. it is looking forward. It does have a scope to enable a good consultation with the public for them to feed in really what they do like. So there was a real measure of praise from the committee. The specific things were, and there is a list, so I will go through and members, council members, if you disagree with any of these, please stop me. There has to be the ability to capture concerns about infrastructure in the consultation. Reservoirs, GP surgeries, schools, community facilities, green spaces was another one that came up, and ecology. In the comms, you need to make sure that people are aware that with a nutshell document, you can dip in and dip out. That was another strong point that came. Can you please check the wording of the questions, that they mean what they say, and just do another reread of those, and maybe check with a third party for it, check the wording. Make sure the fonts are accessible, all right, to absolutely allow parishes and other organisations to admit hybrid inputs or single 30-page documents. But again, the comms wrapped around that is please make sure that if you are submitting a 30-page document, put them in the headings of the consultation, because it makes it a lot easier. On the big policies, get the fizz back in the report. At the beginning of the nutshell document, I think it was said it's a bit bland at the beginning. I've got it here on the screen. Therefore, in other words, sell the sizzle and also the substance. To say that this is, well, the word visionary was put in, the enthusiasm behind the local plan we are providing. Make sure there is an opportunity for call and identify green spaces within the document. And Andy, before he went, the end box is there. Instead of say, is there anything else you want to say? Is there anything in this local plan consultation that you would have want to have seen? Words, something like that. Is there anything missing in the local plan consultation? That's all. I want. Why haven't we put windmills in and solar farms or something like that? And my end comment at the bottom is the word praise. We really do praise the officers for this document and praise Anne-Marie and Andy for shepherding it through. Who's still online? John Salmon online and no, sorry, John, I am thanking you. It's Tom who's online. Thank you for that. And thank you for your contribution to that. Tim, you've been silent. Do you want to say anything at this point?
No, I think everything's been, I don't really want to add to the time, but everything that needs to be said has been said, and we welcome the comments that have come back, and we'll feed those, and we'll, consider those, and obviously feed those into the consultation documents before they go out.
Okay,
thank you.
And I think those capture the spirit of the debate of the meeting. Is there anything else that anybody wishes to add? No. Okay, well then I will propose the wording there, dollops of praise. Candida will come up with the correct, and also these specific points will be listed going forward. So I propose that from the chair. Catherine seconded. All those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. And also I thank officers and also members of the joint Scrutiny committee. It's been a long session. It's been a really good session because we've had 3 big important lumps to do. And just thank you for your Thank you for your contribution. The meeting has now ended.
1 minute to go.
Joe,
Well-
thank you.
Still there.